Protests at two of the Western Cape's universities gain momentum once again as students demand answers from authorities. Embattled Western Cape leader Marius Fransman quits the provincial legislature, saying he needs to rebuild the struggling party in the province. It's Friday. Hello and welcome to it. You're watching eNews Direct. I'm Duduzile Ramela.
And I'm Sandy Ngangose. Good evening.
To comment on any of our stories, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNews Direct.
And tonight our hashtags are UCT shutdown and Marius Fransman.
We start with news just in. The NPA has placed two senior officials on special leave. Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Nomgcobo Jiba and Executive Lawrence Mkhwebi asked to be placed on special leave after they were struck off the roll of advocates yesterday. More on that story on our website. That's eNCA.com/direct. In other news, it's been a day of mayhem at two Western Cape universities. Scuffles broke out at Stellenbosch University when students staged a sit-in against proposed fee hikes, while the University of Cape Town suspended classes until Monday over the suspension of some students. These happened on the backdrop of the Fees Must Fall campaign.
At least two people were injured after a group of students clashed with private security guards at Stellenbosch University. Scuffles broke out when a few tried to get back into the main library where the sit-in has been since Monday. It's alleged private security guards used pepper spray. Students accuse management of refusing to meet with them, but the university denies this.
So we have many different mechanisms in place whereby we engage with students. For example, and in this case, the correct conduit for such engagement is the Dean of Students. And the Dean of Students is a newly appointed position that we created exactly for this purpose in consultation with students from last year.
Meanwhile, protesting students at UCT say they've achieved their goal of shutting down the institution. Classes have been temporarily suspended until next week.
That's what we wanted, and we will continue with management engagement with them further on this.
Earlier, demonstrators braved the rain and blocked access to roads on the lower and upper campuses. They're calling for suspensions and disciplinary action against some Fees Must Fall protesters to be lifted. They also want a process similar to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to be implemented. UCT say they're open to a TRC but will not terminate the disciplinary process.
Unfortunately, it is not something that could be considered at this stage because it hasn't formally been brought to the attention of the executive.
Students say they'll discuss the way forward with management next week. Bonga Dlulane, Western Cape.
1 million paid internships and over R1 billion for small and medium enterprises. That's the promise from government, business and labour following a presidential CEO initiative meeting today. President Jacob Zuma has again urged South Africans to stop speaking negatively about the country. He says this could hurt investment and the fight against unemployment.
There was cause for some celebration. Since the presidential CEO initiative last met in May, South Africa has enjoyed some good economic news, like the 3.3% growth in the second quarter of 2016. And if the latest plans come to fruition, there could be more good news in store for the economy.
In our economic reform packages and all the things we're trying to do, there are things that their nature would take a long time, like the structure of our economy. There are things that we can do something about now.
Government, business and labour have agreed on the need for a 3-year programme to create 1 million youth internships. This will be jointly financed by the private sector and a package of state incentives. And business is pumping 1.5 billion rand into equity investments in small business development.
If we begin to pull it off from early next year, after we do the planning work this year, it'll be a promise that we are bringing to bear for our young people, that we can give them work opportunities and exposure and training and place them on a better footing.
There was also a plea to stop portraying the country in a negative light.
There was an indication in relation to what I said at the end, that the manner in which the narrative has been going negative in the country we should all not continue with that, to allow the efforts that we are doing to succeed.
The progress is encouraging, but South Africa still faces some serious economic challenges. It's all hands on deck as government, business and labour work together to boost the embattled economy and stave off a sovereign credit ratings downgrade at the end of the year. Nicolaus Bauer, Union Buildings, Pretoria.
Beleaguered Western Cape ANC leader Marius Fransman has resigned as a member of the Western Cape provincial legislature. The ANC has confirmed it received his letter of resignation today. Fransman is also facing disciplinary processes within the ANC over claims he sexually assaulted a former employee.
Marius Fransman says one of the reasons for resigning as a member of the Western Cape provincial legislature is that the ANC's credibility has reached its lowest levels in its 104-year history. He says he now wants the time to rebuild the trust of the electorate in the ANC, especially after 2 disappointing elections in the Cape for the ruling party. In a statement, Fransman says ongoing ANC internal turmoil, infighting and factions make it near impossible for him to execute his duties as an MPL. Fransman has been engaged in parliament politics for more than 17 years. First as an MPL and MEC in the Western Cape, then he moved to the National Assembly where he was also a Deputy Minister for International Relations before returning to the Western Cape Parliament in 2014. The ANC says Fransman's seat will be filled as soon as possible. The party has 14 seats in the provincial legislature. Fransman faces an ANC disciplinary hearing at the weekend. The party will not detail the charges against him, but it's related to claims that he sexually assaulted a former employee earlier this year. Lester Kivet, Cape Town.
Now, collecting and recycling waste is much more than a good habit and a way of keeping the environment clean. The industry provides a means of living for thousands of people around the country. 2 Soweto sisters are proving they can live off used tires.
Pumza and Bongiwe Shlatuk are spinning their wheels of fortune. The sisters, both in their 20s, spend their days on the streets of Igoli, searching for their own version of gold. Used tires for recycling.
Bengisebenza before, la bengisebenza khona, and then I realized ukuthi imali engithole ematayereni iyo bengikhona ukucover ngayo ama expenses ami.
The sisters work with 8 other young people in order to meet their daily demand. On a good day, members can collect over 800 tires and around 300 on a slow day. The sisters sell their tires to the Recycling and Economic Development Initiative of South Africa, REDISA, which pays 3,000 rand for 750 tires. Once recycled, the tires end up as different products, from furniture, nylon to material used in making artificial turf. But storage is the greatest challenge for the group. And the environmental benefits of their work pushes them to work even harder.
The
sisters now plan to go beyond tires. With plans to spin their dream to greater heights, these micro-collectors have no intention of stopping their wheels from turning. Sigelelwa Mdingi, Freedom Park in Soweto.
Turning to world news, the first international Zika prevention meeting will be held in Havana in October. All countries that have been affected by the virus will be present to discuss different ways to prevent its spread. The Pan American Health Organization says more than 100,000 cases have been confirmed and close to 500,000 suspected cases have been reported. In China, firefighters have evacuated residents from a village hit by flooding caused by Super Typhoon Meranti. At least 7 people have been killed and 11 are missing. Meteorologists say the storm was the world's biggest this year. And in France, clashes have erupted between police and protesters. At least 7 people were injured during the protest over government's new labour reforms. The government shrugged off months of often violent demonstrations and passed the law in July. It says it hopes the reforms will reduce unemployment. However, unions say it will undermine labour protection standards and their ability to represent workers.
Time for all of your social media with Tutuzi.
It is indeed. Thank you so much, Sandile. The eNCA Freedom Party has taken control of Jozini municipality in KwaZulu-Natal. Office bearers couldn't be elected at Jozini as both the ANC and IFP had the same number of councillors. But after today's vote, a spoilt ballot from the ANC side handed the IFP a win. Jozini was previously an ANC council. Meanwhile, the ANC Youth League wants the Mineral Resources Minister to monitor the country's mining operations. In an open letter to Msebenzi Zwane, the league's Njabulo Nzuza is urging him to do all he can to deal with the illegal mining situation. He also blames mining companies for environmental degradation and air pollution. Nzuza says it's time to resolve the issue of nationalization in the mining sector. If you've missed any of the stories we're tracking for you, you can of course find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNews Direct, or you can head on over to our website. That's eNCA.com/direct. We've got your business news after the break, as well as your weekend weather forecast. The SARS commissioner has hit out at a body which reports directly to the finance minister. Tom Moyane has criticized the Financial Intelligence Center for not cooperating with an investigation into 2 senior officials. Moyane says he's addressed this with Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan. Yesterday's SARS second-in-command, Jonas Makwakwa, was suspended. A probe found that over several years, suspicious payments were made into Makwakwa's personal bank account to the tune of 1.2 million rand. The findings were handed over to Moyane back in May. The Revenue Service says an independent law firm is investigating the allegations. It's also announced a replacement for Makwakwa. All right, let's see how the markets performed today. Check in with the Weather Center. Here's Joel Guy.
Welcome to the Weather Center. The cold front we have been talking about for much of the week finally hit Western South Africa this afternoon, introducing cloudy, rainy and chilly weather over the western areas of the Northern Cape, much of the Western Cape and the western sections of the Eastern Cape. We also had patches of storm clouds popping up across Eastern South Africa. Now we are expecting the cold front we saw earlier to continue to affect Southern South Africa on Saturday, maintaining cloudy, rainy and cold weather across the Western and Eastern Cape, as well as much of KwaZulu-Natal. Snowfalls are expected for the northeastern areas of the Eastern Cape and across the Drakensberg Mountains. Thundershowers are forecast for northeastern South Africa, where cooler afternoon temperatures are forecast in places. It's also going to be cooler over the central areas, and warmer temperatures are forecast for the northwestern parts of the country. The cold front we saw earlier is going to be leaving our shores as we head towards Saturday night. Now KwaZulu-Natal is going to be mostly cloudy with rain and thundershowers, temperatures in the mid to upper teens. It's going to be colder across much of the Eastern Cape, where cloudy and very wet weather is forecast, particularly along the coastal areas and that just an interior where we have a warning for heavy rains in places. Isolated showers for much of the Western Cape. However, it's not going to get too warm for most areas. Cape Town peaking at 15, and it should get dry for the city in the afternoon. Light rain is also forecast for the southern parts of the Northern Cape. It's going to be dry for the northern sections. We stay with thunder showers in the Free State around Bethlehem and Harrismith, a high of just 18 for Bloemfontein and Forest Smith with mostly sunny skies. It's also going to be mostly sunny for the northwest with temperatures in the lower 20s across the bulk of the province. Thunder showers are forecast over parts of the Limpopo province, highs in the lower 30s for most areas, but a sizzling hot 40 is forecast for Messina. We are also going to see thunder showers across the Mpumalanga province with warm afternoon temperatures. Fairly unsettled weather is also forecast for Gauteng, Johannesburg warming to around 25 degrees. It's going to be cloudy and pretty wet on Sunday across the eastern parts of the country, mostly sunny as we go towards western South Africa. Then on Monday, we have a bit of rain forecast around Richards Bay.
Thank you, Joel. Here's what's coming up after the break. Winnie Mandela has her own surprise for her guests as her 80th birthday celebrations continued at Artscape. Welcome back. Hundreds of people gathered at the Artscape Theatre in Cape Town to celebrate the life of struggle veteran Winnie Madikizela Mandela.
Yep, top South African musicians hosted the tribute concert, but not before she sang to the guests herself to welcome them.
Happy birthday, Mandela. Mine mnandi kuwe, mine mnandi kuwe, mine mnandi dear mama, mine mnandi kuwe.
Birthday messages pouring out to the mother of the nation, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, ahead of a tribute concert hosted especially for her.
So everyone's taken their seats. The theatre is packed to capacity. Roughly about 2,000 people filling up the Artscape Theatre and ready to celebrate Ma Winnie's birthday.
And there she is, looking radiant in traditional attire and welcomed by a roaring crowd.
This was the Nico Milan where black people could never enter. And tonight, to celebrate our iconic Ma Winnie's 80th birthday in this place, is to say, Ma, your fight was not in vain.
It was Winnie herself who welcomed guests in song. And then it was music icons who quickly turned the room to silence as their gifted voices echoed through the theatre in celebration. Music was a huge part of our liberation struggle, so it only seems fitting to honour a hero like Winnie Madikizela Mandela in this fashion. Happy birthday, Ma Winnie. Tanya Neft, Cape Town.
A reminder of our top stories before we say goodbye. Protests at 2 of the Western Cape's universities gain momentum once again as students demand answers from authorities. Embattled Western Cape leader Marius Fransman quits the provincial legislature, saying he needs to rebuild the struggling party in the province. And that's our lot for the week.
It is indeed. Rhythm City's up next.
Until Monday night, have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.